Hi there, this is Jennifer with Brome Fields, and today we're going to be working on the small cross stitch, except this isn't it in the round. So we did this already on day 97, and now we're just going to knit it in the round, which is a little bit different because all of the even rows are opposite. So the odd row, row 1, is the front. So we're going to be knitting all of the right side row. So it's all front stitches. So row 1, first of all, I'm using Lion Brand Thick and Quick yarn and size 11 knitting needles. And you want to cast on in multiples of 6. So I'm going to purl the first 2 stitches, and then I'm going to knit 2, purl 4, and I'm going to repeat the knit 2, purl 4 until we get to our last 4 stitches. So you can kind of see I've already done one set, and this is a set of 12 rows, 12 row repeat. And you do kind of have to push them along. And then purl 4. Knit 2. Purl 4. Knit 2. So I do have quite a few stitches on here in order to be able to work this in the round. So this is just going to be a longer video than normal. I like to keep my videos short and sweet, but with a 12 row repeat, and I think I'm doing 6 repeats on here, so it's quite a bit. So row 2 is the same as row 1. We're going to purl 2, knit 2, purl 4, knit 2, purl 4, knit 2. Purl 4, knit 2, purl 4, knit 2, and then we're going to purl the last 2 stitches. Row 3 is a little different. This is where we're going to start our crosses. So we're going to purl that first stitch, and then we're going to cross the next 2 stitches. We're going to cross right, meaning that we're going to knit, that's going to be cross left. We're going to knit into the front of the second stitch, and then front of the right stitch. So we're crossing both in the front. So we went in, and now we're going to go back out. So now we're going to cross the left, which is knitting into the back of the second stitch, and then into the back of the first stitch. And see how that crossed to the left? Now we're going to purl 2 stitches, and we're going to repeat that. We're going to cross right, cross the left, purl 2. So we're going to cross right, which is in the front. So we're knitting into the front of the second stitch, the front of the first stitch, and then we're going to drop both of them off. So we're crossing to the right. crossing to the right. Now we're going to cross to the left by knitting into the back of the second stitch and into the back of the first stitch. However, that gives you kind of a cross. So I'm going to knit into the front of the second stitch. See how that looks. Because I think that's going to give us a nicer crossover. So I'm going to knit into the front of that second stitch. So we're going to purl 2, knit into the front of the second stitch, and then we're going to knit into the front of the first stitch, drop both off, knit into the back of the second stitch, and then into the front of the first stitch. So that gives a much nicer without that twist in it. Purl 2. Cross right, which is in the front, and then cross left, knit the back of the second stitch and the front of the first stitch, drop both off, purl 2, and rinse and repeat. Cross right in the front, cross left in the back and then the front, and purl 2. Cross right, drop it off, cross left, back and then the front, and then purl 1 stitch. Now we're ready for row 4, which doesn't have any crosses in it. We're just knits and purls. Row 4 is purl 1, and then we'll start our repeat of knit 1, purl 2, and we'll have that 3 stitch repeat. Knit 1, purl 2, 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 knit 1, and purl 2, knit 1, purl 2. Knit 1 and then purl 1 for the last stitch. All right, so now we're ready for row 5, and we're going to move a little further to the right. So we're going to cross right, and we're going to start our repeat. So we're going to cross right, so we're knitting into the front of the second stitch, front of the first stitch, and then drop both off. And then we're going to purl 2, and we're going to cross left. So we're knitting into the back of the second stitch, and then the front of the first stitch, and then drop both off. And then we're going to repeat that. So we're moving this out, so it goes in and out, kind of like an hourglass. So we're going to cross right by knitting into the front of the second stitch and front of the first stitch, drop both off, purl, purl, cross left, knit into the back of the second stitch and then the front of the first stitch, then drop both off, purl, not purl, purl, don't purl in between each one. So cross right, cross left, purl 2, cross right, purl 2, cross left, Now we're going to cross right. So I want to put a purl 2 stitches in between each cross, but that's not how the pattern goes. Cross right, purl 2, cross left, cross right, purl 2, cross left. So knitting to the back of the second stitch, front of the first stitch, and drop both off. So as we're making this one wider, we're making this one narrower. So they alternate. So cross right, so front, front, purl, purl, cross left, back, front, and drop both off. So I'm going to cross right, purl 2, and then cross the left, back, and then the front. Now row 6, 7, and 8 are all the same. So they're all knits and purls. So you may want to fast forward through this part so you can see row 9. So we're going to knit 1, purl 4, and then we're going to knit 2. We're going to start our repeat here. We're going to knit 2, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeat. Knit 2, purl 4. So we're bringing these two together with those 2 knit stitches. Oops, dropped one off. And then we're going to purl the 4 stitches in between. Knit 2, purl 4. Knit 2, purl 4. So hopefully you're doing this with me. So you could just keep right on knitting with me. And then we're going to knit that last stitch and slip. So row 7, exact same thing. We're going to knit 1, purl 4, and then start our repeat. Knit 2, purl 4. Knit 2, purl 4. Knit 2, purl 4. And then we're going to knit this last stitch. Because at the beginning of the round we only knit 1 stitch, so we're bringing those 2 together. So row 8, repeat. So that's what gives us this height on this. I'm going to call it, it looks kind of like a honeycomb type pattern. However, the honeycomb looks completely different than this, but it reminds me of a honeycomb. we're just knit 2, purl 4. So knit 2, purl 4, and then we're going to knit that last stitch here. There, get a little more slack. Now we're ready for row 9, which is going to be the opposite of row 5. Row 5, we were knitting to the right first, so now we're going to, we opened it up, now we're going to go back and close it. So we're going to knit left, that means, or cross left, knit into the back of the second stitch, the front of the first stitch, drop both off, purl 2, and then we're going to cross right, knit into the front of the second stitch, the front of the first stitch, and drop both off. So we're going to bring those two together and repeat. I'm going to cross left, purl 2, cross right, and repeat. Drop both of those off. So we're going to cross left, purl 2, cross right, cross left, purl 2, cross right, cross left, purl 2, cross right, cross left, purl 2, and then cross right. Slip that off. So row 10 is the same as row 4. We're just knits and purls. So we're going to purl this first stitch. We're going to knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2. So we're creating those 2 purl stitches there. Knit 1, purl 2. I'm just continuing those. And then we're increasing these here to make them purl stitches. So we're widening that out. Knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, knit 1, and then we're going to purl that last stitch. So row 11, we're going to purl the first stitch. And now we're going to decrease it. We're going to bring these 4 stitches together to create that. So So we're going to cross left. So we're knit into the back, front. Oops. Didn't get the whole stitch. And then we're going to cross right, bringing it together. So knit into the front of the second stitch, the front of the first stitch, and then we're going to purl these 2 stitches. And we're going to repeat. So we're going to cross left, cross right, and then purl 2. Now repeat, cross left, drop both stitches, cross right, drop both, and then purl 2. So we're widening that there and we're bringing those 2 together. Cross left, cross right, purl 2. Cross left, and then cross right, and purl 2. Cross left, oops, go out to the back of the second stitch, front of the first, brings it to the left, oops, and then I dropped a stitch. It's a purl stitch. So with this yarn in front, I just go into that stitch and I pull that loop up through. It's a little tight. So I cross left, want to cross right, going into the front of that second stitch. Oops, I didn't get the whole thing. And then the front of the first stitch, and then I'm going to drop both off, and then I'm going to purl this last stitch. So that was row 11, so we're ready for row 12. And I'm going to grab some more slack here. Keep fighting my yarn. All right, so row 12 is the same as row 2. So actually I'm not going to go ahead and do that row for you because it is the same as row 2. And it's knits and purls. You guys definitely have your knits and purls down at this point. But that is what it looks like in the round. So this is where it comes together. That's where our stitch marker was. So you can see it is seamless. You don't have a place where you can tell where it switches rows. It's actually very nice and seamless pattern where it comes together there. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's new stitch. I know it was a long one, so I hope you guys made it all the way through. But you have one more row for row 12, and yeah, now you guys can make whatever you want out of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's new stitch, and thank you so much for watching.